I think we're good to go.
Cool. Yeah, you're recording. What up, Chris?
Hey, what's going on, Eric?
How is it in Virginia today?
It's nice and hot, man. I had a nice, good long walk out in the heat today.
Nice, nice.
How's it with you, man?
Phoenix, Arizona, it's like almost always beautiful until it's summer hell, man. Then it just gets, it gets real hot.
Well, real quick, one of the cool reasons why we wanted to talk today was to talk about the fasting Facebook group you got going on. So let everybody know what that's about.
Well, in March 2017, I found myself about, 40, 50 pounds overweight. As a nurse, I had access to take my blood pressure, and I had gotten my A1C drawn gone to see my doctor. And I found out I was pre-diabetic, and my blood pressure at work was like 160 over 100. And for that kind of blood pressure, as a nurse, I would have to call the doctor and say, hey, we don't have any blood pressure meds for this person, so we need to do something about it. So I decided to do something about it. I started intermittent fasting, and along the way, I started sharing on my YouTube channel. Oh, hi, honey.
He's adorable.
Yeah, she's watching Pinkalicious.
All right.
While I was losing weight, I was sharing on my YouTube channel my thoughts on intermittent fasting, trying to help people out. And then I realized that Facebook groups were a great way to reach out and actually provide, a way to actually help people learn how to do this. And it's so simple. It doesn't take like a master's degree in intermittent fasting to learn, to teach somebody. It's pretty easy. And so I started Fast Club, and we've been going strong. We're like between 6,000 and 7,000 members right now. And I remember when we had like 200 members, and I was like, woohoo, this is the best thing ever, And a lot of us were just hanging out, talking about, the things we do when we're fasting. We like to clean, we like to drink coffee, or we like our sparkling water, or we like to go for walks. We got really big into encouraging each other to do the 10,000 steps a day challenge. We got really big into events centered around get your streaks. How many days in a row can you eat one meal a day, or within your eating window without, without eating outside of your eating window? Like, what are your intentions, and how do you stay true to your intentions? And so, I found some really great people with super positive attitudes, and I just asked them to help me grow the group, and we've been just chugging along ever since. And all of us add a little bit something different to the group, which is really nice. And some of us need to take a break a little while, and then someone else will kind of pick up the slack. And there's enough of us that it really keeps going strong for, for all the new people who come in. There's always somebody there to kind of help guide them. And the members on top of that are spectacular too. Always willing to help. Somebody comes on, they're like, I don't know even what I'm doing. They'll kind of direct them to like good books or good learning resources. And man, I just, when I think about what's happening, we had one gal come in. She was pretty quiet. She would share every once in a while, but over like 200 some days of doing like a 16-8, she lost 100 pounds, man. And I was just floored, because she was the wife of a friend of mine, and they both came in together, and I was like, holy cow, this works really well, and it's very safe. And I feel, as a nurse, that I can just recommend, if your eating window is this big, shrink it down to this big and see what happens. You might start losing weight. And yeah.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. And if you guys didn't know, Eric also has a channel. If you're on my channel now, watch this. If you're on his channel, you probably already know that. But he's got a YouTube channel. He's been at YouTube for a while now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe a few months after I started the the YouTube channel. I probably started the Facebook group or some, I can't remember which one I started first, um, but yeah, it's getting close to 2 years now.
It's really cool to see somebody that's a health professional that's out here helping us too, and not just, because a lot of health professionals, the very first thing they're going to say is don't fast. And
Yeah.
to find somebody that understands it a little bit better, I wonder, is that impacted your coworkers at all?
Since I've started and since I've always had like a mix of coworkers who've been like, oh, that's not good for you, I'll never do that. Or I hate being hungry, so that's not for me. And that's totally been fine. I'm just like, yeah, it's not for everyone, but it might work for you. But then I've also had coworkers who've started doing it and like have had great results very safely. And they're like, still to this day will come back and they'll be like, Eric, thank you so much for introducing me to this, because I feel great, I look great, and I don't have to struggle with my weight anymore. The struggle's gone. I just know what to do. If I start gaining weight, I just need to shrink that eating window down a little bit, or whatever it is, or like, yeah. So, and there's doctors that I know that do intermittent fasting and keto. There's nurses I know that do intermittent fasting and keto. And then there's the other end of the extreme. There's doctors and nurses who are like, absolutely not. It's horrible for you. You should never do that. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I went to the doctor and he said, "What did you do?" And I was telling him about intermittent fasting, and he had never heard of it, and he was kind of against it. And then I went back and saw him 6 months later, and he told me he was doing 16/8. So,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool." I mean, the doctor actually heard what I was saying, and he saw results. And I don't know if he'll ever be into it as much as I am, but
right.
He added a little bit to it, and he had lost a couple pounds. It wasn't much, but he had lost a couple. But
Yeah.
It is an amazing lifestyle. But I wanted to make sure you guys get out to his Facebook group, because I'm also a member of it. I've been going strong for about a month, probably, in the group. And for all of the Facebook groups out there, it's the one that I recommend. It's the one that I'm most active in. And I think you guys will find a family of people that'll take care of your questions and help you out in any way they can. So I wanted to make sure, we got that in there, and I wanted to make sure that they knew that this was a good place to be. And it's friendly too.
Yeah, I think family is a great way to put it. I've always wanted this group to be very friendly and approachable. So I know there's a lot of groups out there with great admins, with amazing people who you kind of get the feeling that their method is more about what they're trying to sell. And that's totally fine. Everybody is going to do their own thing. But we don't do that in Fast Club. We believe that there's lots of different ways to fast. There's the 5-2 diet, there's the warrior diet, there's eat, stop, eat, there's fast 5, the appetite correction, there's delay, don't deny. And then you have extended fasting, and then you have fasting with keto. There's so many different ways to do this. The one that I developed is called Eat, Deplete, Repeat. I don't sell anything. I haven't written a book yet, but I plan to write a book, but I'm not going to say that my way is the only way. I never will. It's just, for some people, they find that they're stuck doing OMAD or stuck doing intermittent fasting. Here is another way that maybe will be helpful to you, So, and we just want it to be more like, hey, you wake up and like, your friends who you might not have, you may not have friends who fast. So Fast Club is meant to be your peer group who supports you in what you do. So, you're waking up and you're having a hard time. You see everybody else in your family eating. You pop on Facebook and, look at how many people are drinking their, warm water or some kind of tea or their coffee in the morning. And it's like, we're all like, yeah, cheers. Let's fast through our fasting window and get to the food and enjoy it,
I totally agree with you. I feel like, in a way, intermittent fasting family has become a thing where you have a sense of pride. You know what you've gone through, and it's weird that you mentioned it too, because I think it also relates to my food. Like, things that may have been simple before now are just better, you know? And
Yeah.
so that makes you crave crazy things that are really bad even less because, you know, just a simple basic dinner, you know, you can have, you know, like a typical Thanksgiving, you know, type turkey and stuffing kind of thing is
Right.
amazing.
Oh
And, you
yeah.
know, before it was just average, you know? And so I
Yeah.
think that the more you get into it, the more sense of pride you have in it, and the more you feel like you've earned it. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's I've always been, well, ever since I learned about it, I was really interested in the concept of mindfulness, you know, and mindfulness is about really kind of relishing the texture, the smell, the flavor, spending time with your food. Like mindful eating is a big thing. It can help a lot of people lose weight if they don't want to do intermittent fasting, if they just sit down and really actually like appreciate their food. And what happens for me when I go 20 hours or 16 hours or whatever I do, um, I think so much differently about that meal than I used to. It used to be just like, let me just go grab something to eat just to eat. And now I'm thinking, I want something that's going to be good for my digestion, that's going to give me energy, that isn't going to make me feel sluggish later. Or maybe it's something like, oh, hi, honey.
She does nothing but bring smiles
Do
to
you
my
want to
face.
go on YouTube? Do you want to show YouTube people your mask? Ready? See? Oh,
Now
they're
she
gonna
got shy.
try. Yeah.
Oh, she's
Oh,
adorable, man. That's got to be
yeah.
reason enough to be healthy right there, right?
Oh, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if it was just me, I mean, I'd be at the gym all the time. I'd be eating, drinking whatever I want, and just like, but I'm here. I'm raising kids. I can't be at the gym all the time. I need a different way to do it. And kids stress, okay? The stress that you get from your kids, it's two types of stress. You get eustress, which is good stress, and you get distress, which is bad stress. And the bad stress makes the cortisol levels go up, which makes you hold on to your fat. And that's why for a lot of us who become parents, and that's why my YouTube channel used to be called the Dad Bod Project, because I got the dad bod. I've gained all that weight, just because the stress of raising children and not going to the gym. And not going up running.
Yeah, no doubt,
So
man.
anyways, yeah.
Now, the hormone part of it, the cortisol stuff, that stuff's amazing. And it's amazing that we don't know it. You know, if I had actually, I do in school suspension. We've talked about
Yeah.
that before. And
Yeah.
I had a health teacher come in and was talking to a student about dieting. And the
Right.
stuff she was giving them was just completely absurd. And it was nothing to do with any of insulin or hormones or any of that, which is just amazing that they just don't even talk about that. And
Right.
the one thing that I think was interesting was she actually talked about keto, the teacher,
Yeah.
and she said this is a terrible diet that drives people to ketoacidosis. And I was
Yeah.
like, you couldn't give more false information than that. It
Uh-huh.
could give a type 1 diabetic ketoacidosis, absolutely, and that would be a tragedy, and it shouldn't be for maybe type 1 diabetes. But from my
Yeah.
understanding, from the research I've done, it doesn't take regular people there. So why are we even
Yeah.
discussing it?
If you don't have, if you're not diabetic, type 1 or type 2, keto diet's fine.
Yeah.
You shouldn't go into ketoacidosis. I have, because I work in the ICU, I've actually seen a couple patients who were doing the keto diet. They were type 2 diabetics, and they came in ketoacidosis. So they were either doing it wrong or something was wrong. Maybe they were getting an infection and their body had more glucose demand, or something was wrong. Maybe they had some endocrine issue happening at the same time. I don't know what it was, but yeah, if you're just overweight and you're not diabetic, that's interesting. It's such an interesting. I mean, it's so interesting to see how the institutional healthcare professionals come in and give that advice, and yet it's not working. Number one, if you just look, it's not working.
Yeah,
The
it's not working.
old ways are not working. So for instance, when I went to my doctor, yeah, he said, yeah, your A1C is elevated. Your blood pressure is a little higher. And I said, well, and I was just kind of, testing the waters. Well, how should I eat? And he said, well, the Mediterranean diet has the best, is the best diet for, living the longest and reducing risk for heart disease and diabetes. And I said, okay, that's great. I said, what if I do intermittent fasting instead? Because I don't know how to eat the Mediterranean diet. I've never been to a restaurant that has a Mediterranean diet menu section. It's not accessible in real life. And he's like, you can try it. I don't think it'll hurt you, but whatever. And I lost 40 pounds. My A1C went back to normal. My blood pressure went back to normal. So for me, I know that the Mediterranean diet is the best. It's the gold standard in medicine. That's plan A. But most of us can't do that just because our environment doesn't have enough support to do that. Unless you live in those areas where that has the support that you grow your own food and the right foods are readily available all the time, you might need a plan B. And so that's why I say, as a nurse, I'm willing to compromise and say, you know what, if you can't do plan A, which is the best, let's at least keep you away from plan Z, which is killing you. And let's go up somewhere a little higher up the ladder though, and maybe do a plan B or plan C. And maybe let's see what happens over time. Maybe you'll start eating better foods after you lose some weight, after your body feels better and that kind of stuff. So,
it's funny because you mentioned that, and this is something that I always say to people, and it's not sitting right in front of me now, but I think 40,000 people have died last year to gun violence, and 18,000 people died to overdoses on drugs, and 369,000 people died of diabetes. 390,000 people died of just obesity as the main cause, and 11 million of heart disease. And so we got a war on everything but food. And it just blows my mind to think that what's really killing us is our consumption of food, and nobody wants to talk about it, and nobody wants to make an effort to change it. And I don't know if that's financially driven or uneducated or what, but it's amazing to think that we're in that kind of a world and just oblivious to it.
Yeah, well, there's different stages to acceptance of new ideas. First people, laugh at you and they say, "Oh, that's stupid." They don't even think about it. They just, slough it off. They're like, "That's never going to work." And then it starts to take a little root, and then they get angry and they get mad at you because you're doing it. And then they start to kind of warm up and maybe kind of consider it, and then next thing you know, they're doing it and they can't live without it. So we're kind of in that middle stage where it's, all the establishments are kind of not sure what to do with it yet. And there needs to be more studies on it and all that kind of stuff as far as long-term. What are the long-term effects of eating one meal a day? There aren't tons of studies. The studies in the data is not robust. But at the same time, what we're doing is we're achieving the parameters that the establishment says is good for you. So keeping your lipid level in a certain, and your cholesterol level in a certain range, keeping your blood pressure and your blood sugar in a certain range. Even though we don't have data showing that OMAD or keto is great, we don't have longitudinal studies for like 50 years, tracking people on these diets. We do know that these diets do get us back into those parameters that we have established as safe and good for our bodies. So.
Yeah, well, the study of one, I always say, like, studying it on myself, testing on myself, but also looking outside of that, how many 90-year-old obese people are there?
Yeah, you don't make it that far. No.
Yeah.
So in the ICU, the 90-year-olds that I see, they come in because they fell. They didn't keep their, they lost balance somehow, or they're getting weaker and frail or whatever. They fall, they break a hip, or they have a head bleed or something like that. The young people that we see come in are, their problems are made worse by either their diabetes, because when you have diabetes, your wounds don't heal very good. So just a simple car accident with some fractures and stuff like that, you have to have surgery. Those wounds don't heal, or they get infected later. You know, and then just obesity in general is really hard on your heart. So if you have anything that compromises your heart at all, like sepsis, for instance, if you have an infection that gets in your blood, we have to pump you full of fluid. Well, if you're obese, you could literally be taking on like 20 to 50 pounds of more fluid in order for us to stabilize you. And your heart has to pump that every minute of every day. And so when your body is like weight is normal for your frame, it's much easier to overcome those problems when you have them. And we do see a lot of people come in obese with an infection, they get septic, they can't handle it, their heart can't handle it, and we lose them. And I'm sure, I haven't looked at the statistics, but I'm sure it's high for, I mean, it's much higher for obese people to have unfavorable outcomes as there would be from non-obese. You know, it's just a massive difference, you know.
And yeah, so I mean, if nothing else, you're keeping that under control by doing what we're doing. So I know the studies may not all be there, but I think the evidence on some level is definitely shown. You know, and I can think of the two people in my life. My grandmother's 94, and she's what, 85 pounds, and my wife's grandfather just passed away at 95 or 4, and he was also a 100-pound man. You know, I mean, I'm not saying we have to be that extreme. Of course, people were smaller in their generation than they are in our generation, but understanding that you're just not going to achieve longevity unless you have all of those check marks in line, you know.
When I'm done with this, okay. So one thing that I was going to say about that is you have different nutritional requirements at different phases of your life. Okay, like my daughter, you want some milk? When I'm done, okay. When we're done, I'll get you some. Okay. Kids that are growing need an anabolic diet. Okay, that's a diet that makes them grow. Once you stop growing, and this is true with so many people. I know your story, so it's true for you. It's true for me. I was in all kinds of sports in school. I was still growing and very active. And as soon as I was done with high school, I didn't have all those sports. I was going to college. I was, you know, working, all that kind of stuff. I started, you know, accumulating fat because I was eating the same amount of food. I was continuing to eat an anabolic amount of food. And you can have anabolic to like gain muscle or anabolic to gain fat, right? So anabolic just means that it's building. So you can either build fat or build muscle. So if you're eating tons still and you're not active anymore, you're going to build fat and not muscle. So, so during those years when you stop growing in height, you know, you have to cut back on the food you eat and have the right macro content in order to keep you healthy without becoming obese. But then when you get older, you have to worry about losing, like when you get older, like, you know, your grandparents, their muscles start to shrink, their bones start to get frail. Now you have to have a different type of nutrition for that time of your life so that you can stay stronger. So maybe when you're older, you know, we might get away with one meal a day or a 5-hour eating window during our, you know, middle years, but later you may actually have to start adding in more meals in order to maintain your bone structure and your muscular strength in order to stay strong enough so that when you're 95, you have the muscle structure to keep you balanced so you don't fall and break a hip.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it totally does make a lot of sense. Well, look, a couple quick things. I know your daughter wants you to get some milk for her, and I got one coming off the bus here in a minute. So you don't have to keep it too much longer, but I want to make sure everybody knows. So when I do post this on YouTube, that you can find Nurse Eric's channel. I believe it's Nurse Eric. Is that correct?
It's Nurse Eric now. I've converted from the Dad Bod Project to Nurse Eric. So
he's coming.
I'll get you some.
And guys, look, while you're over there, make sure you watch his videos, you like, you comment, and you subscribe. And most importantly, guys, I know he wants to build this Facebook into something special. It's already growing tremendously. So get on there too and join the Facebook group so you can have access to a lot of different guys' information and, knowledge. And I think the more of us that have knowledge out there, the better off all of us are. So I appreciate all the medical advice you just gave us here today. That was amazing stuff. I know the people that watch are going to be highly impressed. Guys, head over to his channel and definitely check him out.
Yeah, I like to make sure everybody knows that it's not medical advice, but it is insight. So
insight. There you go.
you definitely need to talk to your doctor or healthcare professional before you do any of this stuff. Just because, like I said, I've seen people try keto, end up in the hospital. Intermittent fasting is probably a little safer, but it depends. If you have certain diseases, thyroid disease, diabetes, I've seen people try and start doing it and still take their medications and go hypoglycemic. But that's also
mentioned it too with the kids. Intermittent fasting isn't the best thing for a growing kid. So some males grow into their 20s. So you've got to really balance all those kind of things. I know my son is super small, and he's always talking about, I want to fast to my mom. My wife, and she gets so mad. I'm like, no, you can't fast. You can't fast. So it isn't for everybody, and you definitely should talk to a doctor. Man, cool. Thanks so much for joining me for a little bit, man. You are the man. I know we're going to do this more often.
Yeah.
And, get an opportunity.
And Chris, we're going to do an interview. We tried to do an interview for my channel. We're going to have to do that soon. We're going to have to replay that one because the video got messed up. But so everybody, make sure you tune in for that. And Chris, I really would love for you to be an admin in our group in the Fast Club, because you just have the same attitude that I do. You just want to help people get the word out and just kind of support other people doing exactly what we're doing. Keeping it simple, but needing a little support and motivation. So.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to, man. I appreciate it. And we'll be in touch soon. I'm going to go ahead and let all the YouTube people go. So thanks for joining us today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe on both channels. Thanks, guys. Peace.
All right. Peace, Chris. Later.
All right. Hey, man, I appreciate